Good evening everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Night Live. I'm Joanne Jones and I am a speech and language therapist and the early years development coach, and I come live every Tuesday evening 9 p.m. UK time and talk to you about various topics that might help your late talking children. So I hope everybody's well this evening, and I wanted to just talk about something a little bit different this evening. I want to talk about connection, and the reason for that is because earlier today I came across a post by Johann Hari, and if anybody's interested in following him, it was really fascinating, the video that I watched, and it was all about addiction and the need to be connected, and that actually the reason why people become addicted to things is that they don't get connection. And it got me thinking about how it can be really tough with children who have communication difficulties to feel and get that connection, and I thought it really is a topic worth talking about. Now, I don't know whether some of you like my page, my likes page, and it's called Joanne Jones, the Early Years Development Coach. If not, go over and give me a like. Now, we've got 1,150-ish people in this group and about 500 people like that page. So I reckon 2/3 of you haven't yet discovered it. So go on over, because I do go live ad hoc in there with Late Talker TV. And I think we're up to about episode 6 or 7. So there's lots of information in there, and I'm going to refer to that a little bit tonight as well, because there's one that I recommend you go and watch after this. They're very short, they're very snappy, to the point, something you can, just as you're making a cup of tea, have a quick watch, not too much in depth. So yeah, they're over there if you want to go and have a look. Now, if you're watching me, please give me a hashtag live, or say hello, or give me a love heart, or a thumbs up, or something, so that I can know you're there. Sometimes it is a little bit lonely chatting away to my own face, which a few months ago I never thought I would be able to do, but here I am. I think I've been coming live every week for about 6 months now, so I've got quite a back catalogue of videos. So say hello if you're there, and I will know that at least people are watching me talk. So what do I mean by connection? So as humans, we all need to feel connected, and in order to feel connected, different people need different things at different times, but really what being connected is about being seen, being heard, being noticed, being loved, and having somebody there that is cheering you on and behind you and notices you as a person, having some control over your life, and feeling valued in what you're doing. And so those things are really the core of what we need as human beings. And often, you know, we connect with our children in a variety of ways, and different children need different things to feel connected. And I was thinking about my own children, and anybody who knows me or has listened to me speaking knows that we've got a variety of sensory needs in our family. I'm certainly on the kind of hypersensitive range for different senses, and my children are all got kind of slightly quirky sensory needs, and so they all need something very different to feel that connection. My eldest daughter would never thank me for an unexpected hug. She doesn't like that, but she loves being in a one-to-one with me and having music and singing and having times when there's just the two of us. My youngest likes to be touched and likes to be cuddled and kissed, but tickling is her thing. So if you give her a really good tickle, you get that closeness, you get that connection, you get that eye contact, and that, you know, she kind of goes all gooey, and you know, you get lots back from her. My son, who is now 6'2" and 14, he is very kind of clear cut about what he needs. And when he was about 7, I think I said to him, you know, if you ever need a hug, come and just ask me. Say, Mum, I need a top-up hug. Don't let it get to the point where you kind of run out of hugs. So even now he'll come and say, he came just before actually and said, oh, Mum, I need a hug, I need a top-up hug. And he likes a really good cuddle. And so it's funny how they all need something different. But when you have that connection and you have you feel that closeness, that's when the most learning happens. because when you feel disconnected and you're not on the same page, and you're not, you know, that time's gone on, and you're all a little bit, you know, you have those times, don't you, where everyone's kind of rubbing each other up the wrong way, and you haven't got that connection. And children find it very difficult to kind of function beyond the basics when things are out of line or out of balance, as I like to say. And so it's really important for helping our child's language and learning is to get that connection first. Connection is always really important. Even at times when behaviour is the issue, it's actually about connection and getting better connection that we need to concentrate on. So when we start off in our life as a parent with a little baby, it's really easy to feel connected to babies, because it's all about us giving. We've got no expectation of what's going to come back to us. You know, that they don't have to make choices. They don't really have opinions about things. You know, you give love and give attention and give connection in the way that is comfortable with you. And then as toddlerhood starts to come, things change a little bit, and children begin to have their own opinions. They like things. They want control at a time where they can't really have very much control, but actually not having control makes them feel less connected, more disconnect. And feeling valued can be very difficult, because often they're doing the wrong thing, and quite often, hi Mirav, you stayed awake, thank you. It's an hour ahead for Mirav, and so you know, sometimes what they want is the control, but we can't give them the control because they haven't got the capabilities, and yet they want they need to feel valued and praised and seen and heard, and yet a lot of the time we're telling them not to do things. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do the other, because that's how that's just how it rolls, doesn't it, when you've got a toddler? And so you get the start of this disconnection coming. I've written myself quite a lot of notes tonight because I wanted to keep on track. And so then if you throw in difficulties with interaction, and difficulties with attention and listening, and difficulties with talking and understanding, it makes it even more difficult to find that connection. And so, you know, I think that, you know, when you've got a child that's got these difficulties, it's even more important to find how to connect and to take language and almost interaction out of the equation. And so there's lots of ways that we kind of struggle to find connection. So parents, you might have a feeling of what makes you feel connected, and you try and do that to your child. So, for example, for me, it might be, you know, you want to touch the head. That's a real biggie for my daughter. So for my eldest, you know, when she was little, I mean, she's taller now, but just always wanted to touch her head, and like if she'd ever be going wrong, I wanted to kind of show that love with a touch of the head. And she absolutely can't stand her head being touched, and actually it would make her feel really angry and have the opposite effect of what I wanted from it, was to feel that, you know, that connection between us. And so I think as parents, from our own childhood and from our own experiences and from our own sensory perspective, we have things that we like to do to create connection. And for some children that doesn't work, and so, you know, already you're then on a path of feeling a bit disconnected with your child. Children might find things that we naturally put into connection difficult. So I'm thinking of like eye contact, or those early interaction skills, those kind of taking turns, those things that give us a platform to kind of feel connection. And, you know, we often have eye contact as something that makes us feel really connected as humans, but for some people, and me included, I've got to say, eye contact, it can be really difficult and actually really uncomfortable. And for me, if in a close proximity, if I've got to give lots of eye contact, what will happen is it takes over my concentration, and then I can't concentrate on what I'm saying. So I'm much more comfortable with my eyes slightly lowered, and then I don't have to think about it, and I can interact in the way that I need to. And so I can only imagine what it must be like for the children who find that eye contact difficult, and they're being kind of made to look at you, because that's what we think of as a way to connect and be on the same page. And so it's really important to kind of see it from their point of view, and realise that actually what we find important is maybe not the thing that will connect us with our child. Lots of children with speech and language difficulties have really limited control. They might have lots of thoughts going on in their head, but they can't communicate them with us, they can't get their message across, they can't make choices necessarily, and life is kind of happening quickly around them without their ability to really kind of get involved with it. And so it's really important to kind of to see that as it is, that actually, you know, this little one needs to have some control, and how can we bring an element of control into their life without it being too much. There's got to be boundaries. I'm not saying that we want, you know, the children running wild and being unsafe and whatever. You'll have your own limits of what the boundaries will be, but we've got to hand back some control to children. And always being told not, that something's wrong, or being misunderstood and being asked to say something again, or being ignored because what they're saying is out of context, is not going to make the children feel valued. So it's really important to kind of grasp at little opportunities within that to show value and to show the children that we appreciate their efforts for their communication, and, you know, saying, oh, you looked at me really well, good girl for looking, or that was lovely talking. I often will give lots of very direct praise about talking to children that I'm working with who are struggling, even though it doesn't come naturally, because we don't know, talking just happens. We don't really kind of give feedback about talking necessarily, so it doesn't feel very comfortable at first, but it really pays off, and you can see children kind of grow and their value being added. Emotions are a big thing, and like lots of children, whether they've got communication difficulties or not, struggle with expressing emotions. And with all children, we should be very consciously giving them, girls and boys, and particularly boys, because boys really struggle with this and it affects them later in life, but giving them a vocabulary around emotions. And that might be about describing your emotions, and it might be describing their emotions before you react to them. Oh, I can see you're really cross. Oh, I can see this is really exciting, before you can then go on to say what you were normally going to say. And I think the other big thing, and the message that I hear loud and clear from lots of parents all of the time, is that actually you feel so worried and so anxious about your child's development, that is what consumes your thoughts when you are interacting with your child, when you're with your child, when you're talking about your child to another person maybe. It's about what the child can't do, what they should be doing and they can't do. And that's what kind of, when you think about this child who is a late talker, that's what fills your head. And actually, you know, yes, that is important, and yeah, I really want to help you with that. But as humans, we need that connection before all of that, before we worry about whether they're talking, whether they're interacting, whether they're on the autistic spectrum, whether they're not. We can form connections with all children, however difficult their communication skills are and their interaction skills are. And it's about finding that way to connect. And I would just urge you tomorrow to kind of think about that and think, you know, what can I do to get to this little person and really get to know them, aside of all the worries that I've got about them, aside of all the things they're not doing. What is it that lights them up, and how can I be in on that? Because that is what being a mum is all about, and don't let your worries and your anxieties cloud that. I say mum, I know there's some dads in here, sorry. And so when we have all these things and we have this connection, it fills up our emotional tank, and that's the bit that I'm going to recommend that you go over to my likes page and watch the live that I did, Late Talker TV, about emotional tanks, because I imagine it as this big tank, and when good things happen and when you have connection and you have love and you feel valued and you feel heard and you feel listened to, your emotional tank fills up. And when you don't feel heard and you're disconnected and things aren't going right and you can't communicate and you're feeling angry and no one's noticed and you feel overlooked and you feel unloved, it begins to all drain away. And as parents, we've got to be frantically kind of filling the buckets at the other side and trying to kind of keep them topped up. And I don't know if there's anyone watching that's got children that have then gone to school or even gone to daycare, and you think, you know, other things happen that drain that emotional tank, and it's almost like you're always you're always fighting against a flood. You know, you're trying to keep them topped up when the rest of the world is trying to empty the tank. And so, you know, it isn't easy. It really isn't easy. But I find that that kind of visualization really helpful. And when my kids are being annoying and nosy and I just try to think of it as an empty tank and think, what is it that they need? Sometimes it's food, sometimes it's sleep, sometimes it's just somebody to listen and understand and not try and solve the problem, just be there and be available. And I think that, you know, that's hard in this day and age. It's really hard because we've got a lot of distractions, and that is a whole other life. So the other thing is that we have to think about our own emotional tanks, and as parents our emotional tanks get drained, and with toddlers I think the draining is even quicker, because, you know, they try our patience. Often we don't have enough sleep, often we can't look after ourselves, we don't have time for ourselves, we can't do all the things that we used to do before we have children, and all those things like little holes in the tank just kind of seeping out. It's difficult to maintain your relationships with your friends or your partner because there's always other pressures. But when our tank is low, and I was saying it's really not easy to think about at all while we are human ourselves and have our personal problems. Yeah, exactly. So all of those things drain our tank, and we need to, we don't live in a culture that values self-care. We live in a culture that values busyness and packed lives and franticness and, you know, journeys to work and how many hours do you work and what childcare have you got, and, you know, our lives are just busy and full, and it gives us very little time as parents to kind of top up those emotional tanks. And it takes a really conscious effort, and you're looking at the person who found this really difficult, and I'm no angel. Like, I'm not sitting here preaching because I've got this covered, but I do know that I feel better when I do the things that I need. And for me, often, do you know what it is? It is saying, do you know what, kids, I just need everyone to stop, and I just need to go into a quiet room. I just need a minute. It just needs to stop because I cannot take any more. And often I will say, in a minute I am going to start shouting, and it's not because I want to, it's just because I can't take any more. I'm just going to go away, I'm going to calm down, and then I'm going to come back. And the other thing that I do, which I've only started doing recently, and I don't know whether it's a good thing or not, but I will say, I have got PMT, and you know, they now know that if I've got PMT, I'm like a different person. I will react much quicker, I will shout much more, but I will apologise and say I'm so sorry because that was actually just because I had PMT. I can't help it. Something breaks down and I'm not the person that I normally am. But by being open and vulnerable about that, it kind of helps children to see. And I know, you know, my children are older and they're able to do that, and for your little ones that might not be, you know, the right thing to do, but it is about kind of owning our own emotions and taking responsibility for filling our tank, because by filling our tank we're going to be better parents, and by being better parents we're creating better humans. So I think the other thing is talking about your parenting with your partner or with anybody else that looks after your children, and being on the same page about it, because quite often you'll have different ways of parenting. You'll have parented yourselves very differently, you'll have different boundaries as to what is acceptable and what isn't, and children really need a kind of joined up approach, and I think that's a really tricky thing to do. But when we're, you know, it's so important for children to feel connected to fathers and mothers, and for the parents to be connected, that once you've got that and you're in your flow, you know that you're on the right page and actually everybody's benefiting from it. So I think it's kind of remembering, and what I took from what I was listening to today is that connection is as important as eating and drinking and sleeping. It is absolutely vital to have those moments. And I think that I read somewhere that there's 4 touch points in the day where you should connect, and then everything over and above that is very beneficial. But as a minimum, when you're on waking, you should have a moment of connection. On leaving each other at any point during the day, if you leave, you should have a moment of connection. on coming back together, you should have a moment of connection, and on before going to sleep, there should be some connection. And, you know, I can't say that I do that. Honestly, hand on heart, I can't say that I do that. And, you know, I've read this before, and I remember it kind of striking a bit of a chord and thinking, I don't do that. I try to be there and I try to be present, but I don't have 4 with each child. I don't have those 4 moments every day. And I thought, do you know what? I can change that. I can do something about that, because it's not hard, is it? It's not hard. And to just have those moments of connection during the day. And then anything above that, you know, sitting down and playing in the floor, or being present with the child, sharing an interest with your child. It might be the most boring thing ever. I can remember when my son went through a phase of Minecraft, and he used to tell me in great detail about these worlds that he's created. I mean, I'm visual space show, whatever, I'm absolutely rubbish. It meant nothing to me. Like, it literally, he could have been saying it to me in Japanese, because it just made no sense. But I remember thinking, you have to listen to these things that he wants to tell you about, so that later on he will tell you about things that you want him to be telling you about. And, you know, so far so good. 14, he still talks to me, and so it's about listening even when you don't want to. I'm just remembering that actually, if you can get this right, if you can increase the connection and increase it at times where things are fraught and you feel that behaviour is off, or whinging is more, or just generally feeling a little bit with everybody, if you can up the connection, up those times that you spend, up the times that you spend connecting, then you will improve behaviour, improve the atmosphere in the house, improve everybody's mood, improve family life, and so, you know, it's beneficial. And sometimes it's hard to just make those steps, but in the long run, everything improves, and language learning will improve, and learning in general will improve in those moments when the child feels connected. And that's why I always say that parents are the best teachers of language, because you are the ones that are connected to your children. You are the ones that have that bond and that connection, and your children innately are desperately looking for that connection with you. So you're just in the best place to be the best teacher. And if you think back to school, the lessons that you always liked were the ones where the teacher got you, you felt like you were heard, you felt like you were seen, and you felt connected to the teacher. And often they were the ones, the lessons that you did the best at, because connection is the key to it all. So I hope that has been helpful. I'm actually popping onto my membership group now. So everybody's probably seen that I have launched a membership. It's going to be open for a few more days. Monday I am going to close it, and then I'm going to put all my energies into making it the best it can be before I reopen the doors later in the summer, probably July time. That's what I'm aiming for. But at that point the price will go up, because there will be a lot more there and everything will be organised. But if you want to be a founder member, if you want to come in now, help me to get it right, get it set up, input into what you'd like to see in there. We've got a real mix of parents with children with different needs coming in, and we're all going to kind of work together. But the added bonus is that I'll be there. There's not going to be a huge amount of people in there. You'll get lots of kind of times where I can help you, and we're going to jump on some calls together, which might not be part of the membership in the long run. So if you want to, you've got till Monday. You can sign up through Teachable, or if you prefer a PayPal invoice that will just invoice you every month for the £10, then do let me know and I can send you that over. But I'm going to go pop over there now, and I'm going to do the second half of this training over there, where I'm going to talk about the how. So the how to communicate, how to connect, what are the things that are going to really help children that have got language difficulties in that connection. Thank you very much for watching. Hi Tanya, thanks for watching. Thanks Mirav, and I will see you all soon. Thanks very much guys.